Welcome to Seth's Daily Podcast. Thought you guys this wouldn't be possible. And thank you guys for subscribing. We're blessed enough to have an interview with Justin Decker from, well, you're technically from everywhere, ain't you, man?
Kind of from all over the place. Yes, sir.
How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right. Little stormy weather, but other than that, we're just hanging in there.
That's all you can do, man. Especially during
That's
this
it.
crazy weather, man.
Hmm.
We
You
got it
got it.
all up here, man. Well, it's not here yet from the hurricane, but
It's coming.
yeah, we've already had the power go out like 2 days in a row.
Yeah, I'm down in Florida, and right now, technically, the hurricane is directly offshore from where I'm at. So we're just catching some of the rain bands and wind, but it's heading straight up north to the Tallahassee area, is what it looks like. So they're going to get hit pretty hard up that way.
Yeah. And man, Earl Jeffrey Mullins, who was one of my good friends, he spoke highly of you, and he said you gotta get this guy on. Unfortunately, he passed, but he was always
Appreciate it.
wanting me to get you on, man. He said he met you a bunch of times down there in Harlan County.
Yeah, yeah, a few times. I like to get stuff going there. Jennifer likes to set up different events and stuff that we do there in Harlan.
Yep. And you have a lot of dogman cases, don't you?
Well, I do some. I don't look at any one thing. I'm more of a Fortean investigator. I look into anything and everything that's kind of weird and unusual and strange. I'm very analytical, and I had done a couple dogman cases, and I just kind of got pigeonholed, and people asked me, "Hey, can you check this out? Can you check that out?" So I have done some, but it's not the only thing I focus on, and it's definitely not my main focus. But I have done a lot of research into mostly animal attack cases that people are claiming are dogman. And then I just kind of go in and gather as much evidence I can to kind of see what was going on.
Yeah, definitely, man. And a lot of people think that dogman is made by the government. What's your
Well,
opinion on that?
so here's the thing. I put together what I call the believability matrix, right? And it's basically a checklist that I go through to see if something could be believable or not, right? And a couple of things on the checklist is historical sightings. Is there historical anecdotal evidence for these creatures? And the thing with dogman or dogman-like creatures, they've been around for thousands of years. So they couldn't have been created by the government, right? That being said, I'm not going to put past the idea that somehow something wasn't captured and maybe modified by the government. Okay. I would put that out there in the realm of possibility. But as far as originally, cynocephaly, dog-headed men, have been reported for thousands of years, going back to the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks. So if these things are real and they're out there, they've been around for a very, very long time, and they're not just originated by the government.
Yeah, there has been a lot of sightings back in like the 1800s and even before
Yeah,
then, man.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, in Wolf County too, actually.
Yeah, well, just all over.
Yeah,
A lot of Native American tribes have stories about them. And like I said, ancient Greek, the Romans, the Egyptians, it goes back all the way, all the
yeah.
way.
Now I've heard about there's like a hole in somewhere in one of the mountains in Harlan County, like special like alien hole or something where aliens hide and stuff. I've heard that rumor. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, I haven't heard anything about that. I'll have to dig into that one.
Yeah, actually, Earl's the one that told me about that.
Yeah. Nope,
Yeah,
I haven't heard nothing about that one.
yeah. He also said there's like a government agency type thing in the cliff up there somewhere too.
I have heard that there is, and I forget exactly what it is, some kind of weather observation tower up on top of Black Mountain or something. But it's seems to be a little more secretly guarded, a little more clandestine than it needs to be for some kind of observation tower. So there's a lot of rumors going around about that. I don't know the specifics of it. I just know I've heard rumors of it.
I have too, man. I mean, that's some interesting stuff right there, man. Are they trying to watch aliens or?
knows? Who knows up there? It could be anything.
Bigfoot. I know there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings up in that area too.
Absolutely. Yep. I know a couple years ago we took three just off of the Black Mountain Overpass Road, all within just a few months of each other. People going over back and forth across Black Mountain, and just three of road crossings just right there. So definitely lots of activity out that way.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is definitely squash land here in Eastern Kentucky for sure.
Absolutely.
There's been a sighting down here down Carsford Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all connected, right? It's like I tell people, they say, oh, this animal doesn't cross this state line, like there's no puma in North Carolina. And I say, how do you know that? Is there a map? Do the pumas know I can't cross this state line? Like they're just out in the woods wandering, man. If they're crossing the state line, they're going to cross the state line. They're not going to go, oh man, I'm not supposed to be over here. Same thing with Bigfoot. And with, the whole area up there is connected. Harlan County, Letcher County, and everything is all connected. There's no barriers, right? So if they're going to be in one area, they're going to be all over up there.
Yeah. And it connects to like West Virginia, Virginia, and all that as well.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
speaking of West Virginia, man, have you did any investigations on the Mothman?
I've been out there. I've been to the festival. I've been out to the TNT area. I've checked out the bunkers. We rode around. It was interesting. I was with an old friend of mine, and we were out riding around 3 or 4 in the morning, kind of a thing, on some of them back roads there in the TNT area. And what was interesting is we found a lot of closed off roads, and they have government warnings on them, warnings about live ordnance still back there, and then explosive danger. Like I didn't realize that there was still active stuff going on back that way. Um, and it was kind of creepy that there was still, and these were seriously blocked off roads. In fact, we came across, um, I guess like two mobile homes back there that were kind of hidden off the road, and there was like we think they were like guard shacks kind of a thing. And we pulled up in there, and there was a couple of cars, and then all of a sudden, all these lights came on in the yard. So we turned around and took off from there real quick and in a hurry. But there's still definitely some stuff going on up that way. As far as seeing anything Mothman related, no, absolutely not. Bigfoot related, no. But it's just definitely eerie, and there's still some secret stuff happening in that area for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. There's definitely some weird stuff in Point Pleasant going on.
Yep.
Point Pleasant's a beautiful town, though.
Oh, it is. Absolutely is. I just had Les Odell from that area up on my show last week, and talked about a lot of the Bigfoot activity and stuff, and just another area of high strangeness, man. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in that whole area.
Yeah, I interviewed the dude that makes the costumes for the Mothman museum.
Oh,
He had
nice.
letters from people who was writing back and forth that witnessed the Man in Black.
Okay. Okay.
That was very cool, man.
Very cool.
Yeah,
A whole different angle of everything.
yeah. It was like original letters he had. He's from Point Pleasant, so he
Okay.
knows a lot more about it. I mean, he had family living there at the time of the sighting when the bridge fell and all that. So it was
Sure.
definitely a cool interview for sure, man. I love Point Pleasant though.
Yeah, no, it's a real nice area. I've been up there a few times now, and people are great. Town is great, and just the whole mystery is awesome. And then you get over to Sutton and check out their museums and stuff over there, and it's just a good area all the way around.
Yeah, definitely some weird government things going on up there though.
Something, definitely something.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yep.
Mm. But yeah, man, uh, we have a lot of Bigfoot sightings around here. What about down in Florida?
Um, Down here they generally call it the Skunk Ape. There's still all kinds of sightings out Everglades style. Um, Down here we in my area, neck of the woods, we got Dave Shealy, who runs the Skunk Ape headquarters down in Okeechobee. But there's still a lot of active investigations going on down this way. Not too far away from me here, we had the Mayaka River photos. Those are real famous. The ones that look like the gray orangutan kind of looking critter behind the saw palmettos. That was in this area where I'm at now. And so there's a lot of activity right in the Mayaka State Forest is a big area. And that's just kind of a little central here for me. So yeah, there's still a lot of activity you can get out there. Most of it is from people being out in the area, just like the state forest, or people that live on the fringes of the state forest. This area has grown up so much in the past 20 years. We're not going to have a lot of activity directly where they used to be. It's kind of all getting pushed back. The wildlife is getting pushed back deeper into the Everglades and into the state forest. Um, like 20 years ago when I lived here, you could see wild hog all over the place. We had a huge feral hog problem, and you could just drive down the road, earlier in the morning or at dusk, and you'd see herds of 10, 15, 20 hogs alongside the road. You're just not seeing that anymore. And that's, in my opinion, a major food source, you know? And so as that gets kind of pushed deeper and out of the area, they're going to kind of follow that and go where the food sources are. But there's still, reports every month coming out of Florida.
Definitely, man. I mean, that's just a beautiful place down there, man. So I mean, it's good Bigfoot land as well. 'Cause, I mean, you got water
Hmm.
pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. The resources are magnificent. Lots of food, lots of water, lots of open spaces. Like I said, it's just a matter of staying away from the people.
Which they're very good at.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
Have you heard anything about the Pharaoh people in the Big Smoky Mountains?
Oh yeah. I try and do research on that. It's actually harder than I thought it would be because there's a lot of people that don't understand what feral people are. And so looking at different reports, you got to go, no, that's not a feral person. Or maybe this was because a feral person is not a Bigfoot, but a feral person also is not just an old hermit that decided to go live in the woods, right? That's not a feral person either. Somebody living off grid. And usually those are the two that you get. Either an old hermit dude living off in the woods somewhere, or you get a Bigfoot type thing, but he looked a little more human. And so you can't really tell by the description, right? A feral human would literally be a wild human, somebody that has been undomesticated, somebody that has been living in the wild generationally, and not just somebody that got fed up with society and hightailed it to the woods, right? And so finding those specific reports are challenging, but they are out there. There are reports and reports of multiple creatures at one time that I would consider to be feral humans. So I think it's a real possibility that there is something I would classify as feral humans hiding somewhere deep in the Appalachian Mountains and the Great Smoky Mountains. I really think they're out there.
Yeah, I agree with that too, man. I mean, that's perfect land too, man. I mean,
It is.
you got animals there. You got deer, man, like unlimited amounts of deer.
Well, and the biggest thing, people are like, oh, it's a national park. There's people everywhere. 98% of your visitors stay on the same like 5 or 10 trails, right? So, where I was living at up in Gatlinburg, that they consider that area the most highly visited national park area in the country. We were averaging upwards of 14 million guests a year, right? But those 14 million guests a year are all going to the same places, seeing the same sights, right? So even if you're 5 miles off that main trail, nobody's going out there. So you could be right by a ton of people and nobody would ever know a population existed because there's literally nobody going out there.
Definitely,
And
man.
people don't realize that. Yeah.
And they're just like Bigfoot, man. They know how to hide very well too.
Well, exactly. I mean, if they're out there, that's what they made their living on. They've literally their existence depends on not being found. right? And so, of course, they're going to be masters at it. Absolutely. Just like Bigfoot and anything else, they would know where the people are. They'd be able to hear them, smell them, see them way before they were ever spotted, and they're going to avoid them. Absolutely.
Yeah. In India, there was like a back in the 40s or 50s, I can't remember, like a 11-year-old boy that lived with a pack of wolves.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and not just India. There was in somewhere in the Russian bloc. I don't know if it was Ukraine. Somewhere in that area, there was a girl that was found living with a pack of dogs. And she was basically an orphan when she was an infant and was raised with a pack of dogs. And she can't talk to this day. She can't talk. She ran around on all fours and lived like a dog until she was in her late teens, I think, when they finally rescued her, quote unquote, and tried to humanize her. So now she kind of walks normally, but she can still run down on all fours and she still can't speak. So, I mean, the idea of somebody living like that is not unheard of. It's not unprecedented, and it's really not that far out. It really isn't. And especially if you start talking generationally, where traits get passed on and information get taught and passed on and built upon, there's no reason why it couldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, we literally have tribes living out in the wilderness and stuff for
Yeah,
thousands
absolutely.
of years.
Exactly. I was raised with a tribe like that, so I mean, they're definitely out there. But at the same time, I wouldn't call an indigenous tribe feral people,
No, no, no.
right? The connotation isn't quite the same. The indigenous tribes are not animals. They're fully human, full language. They interact, you know what I mean? They have their own
Yeah,
technologies and stuff. To me, a feral human is again completely undomesticated, completely wild. What we would think of maybe almost as a caveman, the kind of a thing where they're very animalistic. They don't show a lot of human attributes other than form and figure.
yeah, yeah. The tribes living out there pretty much are like the pretty much created America, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they created tools and everything. And they actually have talked about Bigfoot interacting with tribes.
Absolutely. A lot of history there, different types of interaction, and it depends on the tribe. Some tribes interacted with them in a positive way as another tribe. They had trade and communication. Other tribes you talk to, you hear things about raids where they'd come and raid the village and steal food and maybe people. You hear stories about that and stuff. So there's a lot of different ways the tribes interacted with Bigfoot clans.
Definitely, that's definitely cool stories, man. I mean, didn't I've heard some stories like Bigfoot eating with tribes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it all depends on the tribe itself and how they connected with them. And actually, there's stories of more modern habituation sites like that where they interact. I know a guy. He's passed on now, unfortunately. My friend Chris. Uh, he spent a lot of time at his grandfather's farm in Tennessee, down on the Nolichucky, the river basin down there. Um, and he talks about how when he was a youngin, um, they had a clan that would visit his grandfather's farm. And when I say farm, I don't mean big open spread. I mean it's back in the woods. They had some cows and hogs and chickens and stuff. So he called that a farm. But it was mostly, forested and mountains and stuff. Um, but he told me a story one time how he woke up and he heard some noise outside his window by the back door, and he looked and there was his grandpa talking with a Bigfoot. Now they weren't necessarily conversing like you and I are, but they were communicating with each other. And he saw his grandpa give him a handful of something. He didn't sure what it was. And then when he asked his grandpa about it later, he said, yeah, sometimes they come up and they ask for stuff like salt or garlic or different things like that. And apparently, like his grandfather and his clan were communicated and interacted like that. And then later on, after the grandfather passed, Chris ended up inheriting the land. And while he didn't have any type of relationship like that with this clan, he knew they were still there. He would see him from time to time, and they would leave sign and stuff. But he didn't interact with him like his grandfather had done.
That's an awesome story, man.
Yeah, I never got the chance to go out there and look myself. Chris had a lot of health problems, and I was going through a lot of health problems. And like I said, unfortunately, he's passed now, so I was never able to get out there on the land myself. But he used to send me pictures all the time of different footprints and um, rock stacks that he said they did and stuff like that. I was absolutely, and that's just down on the Nolichucky there in Tennessee, so pretty populated area, you know.
Yeah. Have you actually found any Bigfoot hair while investigating?
I have not. I don't do a lot of field research. Most of my stuff is going through reports and analyzing other people's data and then kind of categorizing it from there. So I have not, no.
Have you seen any of the Bigfoot like nests? They look pretty cool.
They're awesome. I think the probably the ones that are actual nests are the ones found by the Olympic Project out there in Washington State. Um, I've seen a lot of things that people claim to be nests, and I just don't see that being biologically feasible for what we think Bigfoot how they operate. But the ones that the Olympic Project found, where it was Shane and those guys, I think those are more than likely legit Bigfoot nesting sites. And I think they're absolutely awesome. They're so cool. I would love to get out there and find something like that.
Yeah, it is cool how they're made. It's basically
Yep.
like a human making them.
Yeah, well, just like any other primate out there, even if we consider Bigfoot has, woo, supernatural powers, whatever, they still have to operate within certain parameters, right? And if they're out in the woods, they're out in the wild, they're going to have to build some kind of sleeping shelter. It's similar to how gorillas or chimpanzees build their nests in the wild. They're a little different, but it's the same basic concepts, and they have enough evidence that it's not deer, it's not bear, it's something big. And you have to kind of use the process of elimination. What else is it going to be out there? But it makes sense for the region that they're in and the type of woods that they're in, that these are the type of nests that they would find. And that's what they found. And I think it's absolutely cool. Very huge piece of evidence.
That's definitely cool, man. In any of your stories that you've read, have you heard any connection between Bigfoot and UFOs and aliens?
Uh, a lot, actually. There's enough stories out there to be able to say they do occur at the same time, but it's really hard to draw what the thread is, right? Um, you get some reports that talk about how the Bigfoot was flying a UFO. You get some of those, and you got to kind of go, well, okay, is that really a Bigfoot? Is it not a Bigfoot? Is it an alien that looks like a Bigfoot? I'm very careful with labels when I'm doing research. Just because somebody calls it a Bigfoot, to me, doesn't make it a Bigfoot, right? Just because somebody calls something a dogman doesn't make it a dogman. I have to go by the description and the behaviors and stuff like that. And that's just because I've heard so many reports where somebody says they saw a Bigfoot, but then they start describing it and they start talking about how it had a dog snout and pointy ears. And you're going, well, that's not a Bigfoot. But that's the only term they really know for what they saw. So that's what they're using, right? So I'm very careful about that. You hear some reports where the sightings happen very close to each other. Like they see a UFO and then 20 minutes later they see a Bigfoot. Sometimes it's within a couple of weeks. So it's really hard again to track down there. There does seem to be a small correlation with the two. But the way I see it is if there's aliens and UFOs, and if they're trying to observe the planet and the wildlife, I would think they'd be interested in Bigfoot too. So it doesn't surprise me if every now and then they collected a Bigfoot for a sample or you know what I mean? So it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was some kind of correlation going on there. As far as Bigfoot being an alien, I really don't think that's the case. But because we don't know, we can't really rule anything out completely. I'll be honest there. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. There's this one guy I know who's been abducted by aliens and stuff, and he said that Bigfoot was the alien's bodyguard.
Yep, I've heard that before. The thing is, here's the problem I have. It depends on who you talk to, right? You talk to this person who says they're in the know because they can psychically communicate with Bigfoot, and they describe the Bigfoot as this. They're the older brothers. They're not human, but they've been here forever. They're the guardians of the planet. They're portal guardians, whatever, right? But then you talk to this person who says they're connected with the Bigfoot, and what they are is, like you said, alien bodyguards. But then you talk to this person who says they're psychically connected to the Bigfoot, and they talk to them, and then no, they're actually some kind of super spiritual shamanic tribe of spirit guardians. You know what I mean? So all these people claim super special inside knowledge and personal interactions, yet all their stories are different, right? So that makes it really hard to know which one is the right one and which one's going on. Because the way I see it is they can all be not true. They can all be wrong, but they can't all be right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always take those kinds of stories and claims with a grain of salt because unfortunately, there's no evidence to back it up other than that person's word.
Yeah. Definitely some crazy stuff going on, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll talk to them all and I'll listen to them all, and I'm not going to insult any one of them. I'll collect their stories and then I just compare them. And that's what I do. I collect and compare and see what matches up, what doesn't, and try and find the threads of connection through all the different stories.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't find them stories that crazy. I'm just talking about crazy stuff that's going on in the world.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Definitely, man.
all kinds of
There's some
wildness.
definitely some of them are believable though, for sure. You can just tell by their face they've seen something.
Right, but another thing I tell people, especially when you're doing person interviews and investigating people, just because they believe what they saw doesn't mean they saw what they believe they saw.
That's true.
Right. So the person can be 100% honest with you, telling you exactly what they believe they saw. That doesn't mean that's what was really there. And it doesn't mean that's what really happened. It means that's what they believe happened. Right. And I'm not going to sit here and call somebody a liar because I wasn't there and I didn't see it. So I can't do that. But I will take what you say and filter it in with all the other information that I have and kind of process it through that stuff. And then that's how you kind of process through some of that. And it goes back to the same thing of just because you told me you saw a Bigfoot doesn't mean it was a Bigfoot. Describe it to me. Tell me how tall it was. Tell me how wide it was. Tell me what the face looked like. And then I'll decide to put a name on it based on your description. Same kind of a concept. Um, and I've heard a lot of awesome stories out there. But then again, you start filtering and go, well, what you saw isn't necessarily what we would call a Bigfoot. It'd be a devil monkey. It would be, something a little different than a Bigfoot. And it's the same thing with some of these stories. You just got to kind of filter them through and listen to them. And you can tell again if they're being sincere in what they're telling you, they're not trying to hoax you and lie to you. They're literally telling you what they believe. And it's just now you have to take that and filter it through and kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Have you heard any stories of like UFOs going to water and stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. A few months ago, I had a guest on my show, Jessica Christensen, and she was talking about on, I think it was Lake Michigan. She's up there in Wisconsin, um, and her UFO sighting was um, right over the water, and how it went down like halfway into the water and stayed there for a bit, and then came back up out of the water. Water definitely seems to be something tied into UFOs, um, or even USOs, which are unidentified submersible objects. There's lots of reports of having UFOs flying out of the water or diving into the water. But Jessica is the one where I've taken personally from her, talking about her experience of just parked alongside the lake shore watching it and seeing a UFO come down and hovering over it, and like I said, dunking down into the water and then coming back out again. So definitely, I think it's a fascinating topic to look at.
Yeah, we got a report of that around the Pars Fort Lake area as well.
Okay.
But it
Yeah,
was
a
like a
lot of people.
lot. It was like a
Mhm.
little orb light going down into the water.
Okay.
I
A
know
lot of
you hear
people
a lot of
think
that.
that the UFO water connection has to do with either like a hydrogen exchange, like they need it for a fuel exchange, or part of a cooling system, or stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to find out. I know there's UFO people out there that study those specific connections. I don't do a whole lot with UFOs, um, but there's definitely people out there that study that specific arena of it, and they're coming up with some interesting stuff.
Yeah, have you heard about the orbs going into the water? Or
Yep, yep. Orbs. A lot of people think there's a correlation between like the water spirits of old lore and Native American lore and Celtic lore and orbs coming in and out of the water. Water has always had the legend of having mystical properties anyway, whether you're looking at magic or any other type of energy, standing water, flowing water, they all have different magical attributes and things like that. And so you hear a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot because that makes it sound like it happens all the time. But when you're investigating, you start talking to people, you hear many stories where the orbs have to do with water. Either, again, underwater. I've heard of orbs being underwater. I've heard of them starting underwater and then coming out of the water, or going down into the water, or traveling along creek beds and waterways and stuff like that.
yeah, definitely interesting stuff, man. I love this
Yep,
kind of stuff. Love UFOs,
absolutely.
Bigfoot, everything. But yeah, man, we had another like a UFO sighting. I ain't gonna say. Well, I think I've said the area before, but I ain't gonna say the people who told me. It was like two or three cars was there, and they seen a UFO, and then the radio stopped playing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yep, that's common. The electrical interference is a very common thing with that.
Definitely. I think they actually had some pictures of the UFO, but I think they took
Nice.
it off Facebook because people was commenting some crazy stuff.
Oh, well, that's how it usually goes, isn't it?
But I remember seeing it. It was pretty cool looking.
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing. Like I said, I never got a lot into. I got some friends that are part of MUFON, and then every now and then they'll tell me some wild story about something that happened on their investigations, and there's some really cool stuff that happens with it. Um, I can't research anything and everything. I gotta at least have some kind of limitations on it. I try and stick more to just the weird stuff. And to me, UFOs are cool, but they're not that weird. They're kind of like, whatever. It's another UFO story. You know, that's just me.
Yeah. I'm not really a investigator. People just come up telling me this stuff just because I do the podcast and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of reports like that, man. On the back of my truck, I've got all kinds of bumper stickers and Bigfoot stuff and Mothman stuff and all this. And regularly people will be like, "Hey, are you into that kind of stuff?" Yeah. They'll stop me in a parking lot. And next thing you know, they're telling me a story. Or, I'll be parked somewhere and some car will pull up next to me that's got a Bigfoot sticker, and hey, I noticed you got a sticker. Like, yeah, let me tell you what happened to me. And I get a lot of reports that way just because they know. Or if I go speak at an event, I collect more stories speaking at an event than anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons I like going and speaking at conferences and stuff is not because I get to stand up and talk. It's because afterwards I get so many stories from people that come up and tell me stuff. And that's what I love to do. That's what I love to hear.
You got any events coming up?
No, I've kind of taken a hiatus from stuff because my health's been a little poor, and I've been trying to focus on that. We were gonna put some events together at the end of this year, but we've had to cancel them. But hopefully, starting next year, I'll be able to get back onto the circuit again and start getting out, and we'll start running some events again. We like to put on dinners where we all meet in a restaurant, like in a private room, and I'll give a little presentation and people can ask questions and kind of a small intimate thing, maybe 20 people. We like to do library lectures, different stuff like that. And then when I'm invited, I'll go speak at a big conference somewhere. But I usually try and keep things pretty low key. But as of right now, I don't have anything on my schedule, just to focus on my health and kind of get my life situated again. And then I'll start going again.
But you do got a podcast going on right now.
Yep, I do. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern live. The YouTube channel is called Bigfoot Outlaw, and my show is called Paranormal Encrypted Rabbit Holes. And we talk about all different kinds of stuff. Tonight, if we can make it work with all the storms going on, my fiance Jennifer is going to be on with us, and we might have a guest come on who's going to tell some of his stories of what's going on up there in Harlan County. The show tonight is called Appalachian Hate and Haunts, and we're just going to talk about some of the folklore of the area up there, and just kind of go with it. But yeah, every Thursday night, we have a lot of fun with it, and we have a whole range of topics that we discuss. It's not just any one thing. You're not going to get bored hearing the same Bigfoot stuff over and over, or the same Dogman stuff over and over.
Definitely, man. And there's definitely a lot of stories in Harlan
Oh yeah,
County, or Eastern
yep,
Kentucky in general.
yep. I'm actually putting together a book right now, and it's called The Beast of Bloody Harlan, and I'm focusing on beast stories, monster stories, so Bigfoot, Dogman, Goatman, wildcats, anything like that that would be considered a beast. I'm putting together a book, and hopefully I'll be able to finish that up next year as well. I got that on my plate, uh, focusing on a lot of that crazy stuff that happens up in Harlan.
Yeah. I mean, man, that's a beautiful area, though. I love Harlan County.
It is. It's wild and crazy country.
I appreciate you being on, Justin.
Hey, not a problem, man. My pleasure. Anytime you want me to come on, just let me know and we'll see if we can work it out. Always having
Absolutely,
fun
man.
talking with you, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate Justin Decker for being on. Everybody have a good night and God bless.